Okay, I'm going to be going through the new BOBJ report that replaces the previous process of going and downloading a report from BW to get your monthly expenses for lease and your asset history report. You'll have to forgive me. I'm doing this after hours at the pool with my kids for swim teams, so you might hear some noise in the background. So my apologies for that. But just going over what this is replacing, if you can recall, the way that you did your GASB 87 reconciliation is you would go in BW and download your lease rent expense and your asset report, and you would paste them into your GASB 87 reconciliation file, which is here, which is you would download your monthly report here and you would add it on here, and then you would also go in and download your BW asset listing and put it here. So instead of having that laborious process of you having to do it, Kelly has gone and created these reports for you to be emailed monthly and to you for you to work on the reconciliation. So as a reminder, please do your reconciliations monthly, work on them as they come in, and post your journal entries that need to be done, and your asset reconciliations, your ABSONs, your ABFANs, as they need to be done, because it is much easier to do it that way rather than wait till the end and risk the wrath of the auditors and write-ups. And then it goes into, it breaks down everything by periods. So we are interested in period 9 because we've reconciled through period 8. So I'm just going to copy and paste period 9, and I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to paste it onto my BW expense report GL. Now, and I'm going to paste it right here. And I'm just going to paste values. And you can see immediately this formula starts calculating right here, lease expense, low value, and what it's doing is it's looking up the general ledger description and returning whether or not it should be considered a GASB 87 lease expense, whether or not it is a low value category, or whether or not it's a contingent category. And then I'm going to go right all the way back up to my expense summary and see, is it calculating correctly? And you can see right off the bat we've got a not applicable here, and why it's doing that is it is looking for a summary of an overall result. So all you need to do here is just copy and paste this overall result and go right here and just paste it right here and go to the column total and then just hit sum. And it just wants a sum for that file. And this should take care of it, because before, I don't know if you noticed, but when we started to paste, there was right there before we started to paste, there was an overall result field with a total, and we pasted over it. So you just need to always make sure you put back that overall result in a sum total just to make this work. It's not super important, but it just helps you to know that everything's totaling up to what it should equal. Now, so now we've got periods Now we've got periods 1 through 9. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've pasted periods 1 through 9. And pivot back to this BW expense report, which was the first in your email. This was the first Excel file that you received of the expenses. And there were several in the front half of the tabs. There were several useful things, useful tabs that you can use. And I just want to point out that this tab right here goes, we are in July, so it goes past period 9. We have only pulled through period 9. We could have gone through period 12, but right now we're reconciling through period 9. So this sum is $222,715.37. So that should be the total of our general ledger, which I'm going to compare to our file real quick, which it does agree, which we did, we put this overall result back in here, and we went up here on our expense summary right here, this 222,715. So this is what you will be reconciling now on to your payment schedule. So $222,715 is what you need to reconcile between your principal and interest on your payment schedule. And so right here, you can see you've got 180,000 in interagencies, and it's really telling you of this 222,000, only 32,000 was coded to lease expense. So that is what you're ultimately going to be reconciling. Okay, so now you're going to go get the asset history report, which is a separate file on the email, and you're going to go pick it up. So there it is, and I'm going to open it up, which this is what it looks like. And again, this is what you can just completely copy and paste over everything that's in there. So here it is. And then you're just going to paste it in on your BW asset listing. Now, as a reminder here, this asset listing is a complete asset listing. It is for everything that's your assets. So this is for, if you want to look out to the side, this formula is going to give you a helpful hint right here of whether or not it's a leased asset or not. So you can see right here, is this a leased asset or not? And so I'm just going to filter this. And these are all the assets that you have on your asset that is not considered is not falling under GASB 87. And these are for various reasons. So these are falling these are not considered GASB 87 because they're low value. These are because they've been capitalized as office equipment. So this is probably because they've been fully purchased. And so they've been capitalized under just a traditional capitalization process of just fully purchasing them. So it can be a little confusing when you look at this asset report because you are looking at a mixture of assets that have been fully purchased and GASB 87 assets. And starting in 2023, you're also going to be looking at SBITAs as well. So just remember that this asset listing report is going to contain a mixture of fully purchased assets, GASB 87 assets, and GASB 96 assets. So just keep that in mind. So I wanted to talk about one thing in this process of pasting in the file and how you handle something, a lease, an asset that has been added in, but has been added onto the asset schedule, but has not been added onto the payment schedule. So specifically meaning you have gone into skis and updated the assets on skis, but you have not added it to this payment schedule. And just, so we're not in suspense here, I've highlighted the item in green. This lease, for example, is the new lease that was added this, we're just doing this for example, this period. So how it would show up is right now it's saying that it's not leased, because what this does is this goes and looks at right here. I'm going to look at this formula right here. It's going to the payment schedule and looking for this asset number here on the payment schedule to return where this asset is recorded in. So it's saying it doesn't find it in any equipment, any category. But if you go to your payment schedule, you'll see that maybe you have it on your payment schedule, but you have a variance. But on your payment schedule, how you'll know you need to go and look on your asset listing is you're going to have this huge variance that you have no asset value per skis. And so here, what we need to do is we need to go and add, update our payment schedule. You would need to go and run your lease calculator and add all this stuff in, which we can go do. And then, which this video is not about running a lease calculator. It is just about how you update, and you would just need to put in the asset number. So I'm going to go here. Here's our asset number right here. Going to go back to our payment schedule and make sure you put that asset number right in here. And you see, once you put your asset number, it pulls in the asset description, it pulls in all this information. And you can also see here that it pulls in all the information, and you still have a variance here, which the Treasurer's Office had documented the reason why. So I'm going to go back to our asset listing, and you can see that the leased asset changed from not leased to leased computer equipment. So that is how you need to, part of the reconciliation process too, is making sure that all your asset listings agree to your payment schedules. So we covered in part 1 and part 2 the lease and rent expense and the asset history report. Now there's this third report that you're seeing that is the lease and rent expense by doc report and lease GLs only, and it is different from part 1, which is lease and rent expense, because in part 1, lease and rent expense, that includes the full ledger of lease and rent expenses that goes beyond principal and interest. This file right here includes contingent expenses, it includes short-term, and it includes low-value expenses. Whereas the file we're going to look at now, this third file right here, is just going to include principal and interest expenses. So I'm going to open up this file, and I've already got it open up, and it includes all documents for the entire period, for the entire year, according to vendor and their accounting document and their amount, and it is for principal and interest only. So if you want to look at a very distilled version of what was gone through in part 1, this would be the report you would want to look at. It is filtered for just principal and interest, so it has no contingent, it has no short-term, it has no long-term, it has no interagency, it has none of the other items that you would be putting an X by in your reconciliation. Now that being said, you do need to look at those items, because sometimes you can be posting items, principal and interest, accidentally to those categories, and you also need to be monitoring those categories for potential GASB 87 or GASB 96 leases or expenses that are in those categories that do need to be capitalized. So this report is helpful to an extent, but you can't rely on this report solely. You do need to be looking at your other expenses from an internal control perspective to make sure that you are considering the whole and not just the parts. So that really covers everything regarding the monthly report. I just want to reemphasize the Act for Team's role in this. The whole point of our training is so that we can get good reporting from you at year end in the closing packages. We are not your accounting staff. We are merely trying to train you guys on how to do your year-end reporting packages. Your accounting department is solely responsible for implementing these packages. This is a national standard that went into place. Unfortunately, it is terribly, terribly difficult, and we understand that, and we are sorry, but it is what it is. We do hope that you will rely on these presentations to train your staff and refer to them often for training purposes, because we put a lot of effort into them and feel like they are valuable for cross-training purposes. So just remember that when you're watching these videos, that this is a responsibility that lies solely in your accounting department to make sure these are part of your daily procedures, and that the monthly reconciliation should be part of your daily, your monthly procedures, just like your bank reconciliations and the like. So please call us if you have any training questions. We'd love to help you, but all of this is pointing to getting the ACFR out and reporting well. But that's it from our end. And again, this GASB 87, GASB 96. If you have any questions on that, please reach out to Kelly Stigmeyer, Catherine Kipp, James Torbert, and we'd love to answer any of your questions.